Hi, welcome to the Mind's Eye. My name is Patty McGarrahan, and I'm here today with Bill Ladd, and he's going to talk to us about a couple of different things. We met at a job that we both worked at together a while back, and it kind of opened up quite a few doors for both of us. So first I'd like to introduce Bill Ladd.
Hey, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I've been looking forward to this.
Good.
Bill Ladd and I, he does metal detecting, and in the process of metal detecting, he noticed that he felt like people were watching him. So he started putting in, and I will tell you, last night, by the time this airs, it'll be a while after, but last night we did an incredible ghost hunt at the courthouse. Arts and Entertainment Center in South Kingston, and we've done them in lots and all over the place. We've done them. So go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
The cellar holes, that's a kind of a slang term, right, for the old foundations you find throughout the forests of New England and all over the place, upstate New York. We call them cellar holes. Basically, they're colonial foundations. And that's the place where if I'm metal detecting with the headphones on, there has been times where I've shifted around like someone's watching me, that feeling of being watched at some of these places. And then I started getting into the ghost hunting shows that are on television. At first I was kind of a skeptic, so like you said, I started setting up recorders inside the foundation, sometimes while I was doing my thing metal detecting. And then we'd listen later on and hear voices we couldn't explain, I started thinking maybe there's something to these ghost shows.
So I was a controller of a company, and Bill came in my office one day and sat down and said, "Do you know what I do?" And he told me, and I said, "Do you know what I do?" And I explained to him. And so we ended up setting up going into some of the cellar holes in Smithfield. And what was that, the Lost City?
That's what they called it, yeah. It's now Fidelity's property, so unfortunately, progress, construction in progress wipes out a lot of these old foundations. So
we went there multiple times and helped clear the area. And Bill is much better at the history, and he asked the right questions. And I'm good at getting them to go up. And at first, he didn't like it when I sent them up. How, Bill?
Well,
he did invite me to a couple of places because he didn't want me to send out.
It's a double-edged sword for someone like me who likes to hear EVP, but you do your thing, so we're both doing maybe something.
Right.
Something.
In that Smithfield, he had a bunch of recordings, and he kind of had me go out there, and we had the mayor of this little township discovered that it was a community that had left Newport because they still had allegiance to the throne, and they froze in a deep freeze that happened 1811, 1813, somewhere in there, and there was the deep freeze, and we had some energies. But tell them about Rose and
Well, like I said, like you said before, my buddy and I had went out there and did some recordings, and I didn't want to tell you what we got. And we got a little, a girl that said, "I'm 7," or something like that.
Right.
And then when I brought you out there, I had one of those long flashlights, and I dropped it, and we got a recording that said, "A candle."
Yep.
And then you said her name is Rose, and she's about 6 or 7, and that's when I was like, whoa.
Yep. So he tested me at the beginning. He tested
you passed
me.
the test.
I passed the test. But it was exciting because you are so good with the history, and I'm like blah, blah, la, 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 with a lot of that stuff. But we even saw some Native American energies, and I said, there's a little boy wanting to fish, and it was very dry land. And he knew that they had a river or
We found a dried stream.
A dried
stream.
stream.
What was interesting is my friend found an arrowhead there, and that kind of confirmed the Indian activity as well.
So I got tested a little bit at the beginning, but now we have a lot of fun doing it, taking groups.
Yeah, well, it's a good combination, like you say, and I can find trigger objects with my metal detector. I mean, we found, there was one time we did a ghost hunt, and I found a presidential medal, and then I could ask that question, did so-and-so support, I forget the president's name, it's someone who lost, but it was a political medal
Yep.
and from the 1800s, and something like that, or someone's personal object or piece of jewelry. Those are great trigger objects. Sometime you can say, well, there was another time I held up a piece of their silverware or something and said, did you lose this? Do you remember using it? So there's a
That's
lot.
excellent,
Yeah.
yes. He has a little historical place like downstairs where he keeps like his own little museum. And a friend and I went down there, and there was so much energy coming off that stuff, we couldn't do it. So then he started bringing a group of the objects to the Mindz Eye, and he'd bring a group of the objects. And now he every time we're doing a psychometry class, Bill brings in the objects.
And that's interesting for me because I get to learn a little bit about maybe the background of some of these objects, Sometimes I'll bring in oddball things. I have no idea what it is. I like to identify everything. And sometimes we find like odd bits of metal or whatever that I'm just guessing maybe this was used for that or.
And Bill was on the Travel Channel and Dig Fellas, and then they changed management and it ended up messing up with the show. But you also brought a toy.
Oh yeah, if we're speaking of metal detecting,
Yep.
I brought, this is my new little gadget here. When we're metal detecting, a lot of people like to use what's called a pinpointer. That's what this little gadget is, and you'd basically turn it on and you can stick this into the hole and it'll beep when you touch a piece of metal. It's kind of a handy little tool, but this thing is more than just a pinpointer. I can pop this piece off, and now I've got myself a miniature metal detector that you can use underwater. This is waterproof. So I've been snorkeling with this and finding old coins. And so
Ooh, that's
this is
fantastic.
a neat little toy right here. It's also something you can keep in your backpack if I need a little metal detector to maybe scan the walls of the foundation or whatever.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, that's a
I didn't
cool
even
little-
know about that one.
That's a fun
yeah.
little toy they just gave me. So, being on the Travel Channel and being on television, they kind of shower you with gifts because they want their products on TV. So
Yep.
that's a little side benefit.
Excellent, excellent. And I've seen him with the regular metal detector, and he helped me get the one for my grandson because he liked playing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started out with my grandfather when I was a kid, probably 9 years old. My grandfather had one. We used to go to old parks, and I found a silver quarter, and you would have thought I found the, greatest treasure ever. See that glint of silver, maybe that's what got me hooked in the hobby.
Nice.
But I've always been a history buff, as you said, so it's kind of like it's kind of saving history in a way. Like we said, a lot of the old foundations are getting plowed under to put in a golf course or a neighborhood or a new strip mall or whatever. So if I can save a little bit of history and also maybe use it in your classes. I also go to schools and I do assemblies for the kids. I just did one recently up in Rumford, where
nice.
I elementary school children, they just finished studying the Revolution or something, and now they get to hold a cannonball from the Revolution. So
Excellent, excellent. And he's brought fun things. You brought fun things to the shop because when you were on Travel Channel too, you were with some of the sites that you went
that's
to.
the thing. The Travel Channel producers can get you into places that we can't. The average person couldn't go to like a Wild West town that Billy the Kid slept at this house or had a gunfight here, or Bonnie and Clyde's ambush site. We were finding bullets that actually were fired at Bonnie and Clyde's car. So. So that those are kind of like.
So it's real exciting to have people hold it and see what they get from it.
Yeah, those are things I can bring to your shop. I mean, some of the bullets just look like a squished piece of lead.
And one of the bullets has the teeth marks in it.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, the Civil War bullets were about this big. You probably wouldn't want to get hit with one of those.
No.
But
the expression, bite the bullet.
Bite the bullet.
And so somebody must have probably been having something like pulled out of their leg or something, and they had them bite down on the bullet.
So that's a real thing. That was a real thing.
I always thought that was just a crazy expression.
I
My
did
mother
too.
said, you know
but
what I mean?
you always wonder where these expressions came from, and that's to dig up one of those was pretty cool. I've got some from the Revolution and the Civil War, so that they were probably told if they were, having an amputation in the field or they were in pain, they would just bite on something.
Bill has also found dog tags that got to be returned to the family.
Yeah.
That I think was wonderful.
I like returning things, class rings. If a class ring has initials inside it, it's easy to do a return. I was on Channel 10 doing one of those.
One of those, and you were on one of the channels too with the medal.
The dog tag was a World War II dog tag.
Which I'm sure that family, that had to be exciting for that family to get.
It went to the son. The son was, it was his dad, so to hand that back over, that's rewarding in itself. And I've got enough treasures, I'd rather see the smile on somebody's face.
Absolutely. And it is so funny because some of his treasures, he may have two treasures that are exactly the same, and one you get this incredible energy from, and it turns out it's the latch used for the favorite horse. And then the same latch might have been used to lock up a slave, and you get this hard energy from.
You felt that. Like I have these big padlocks, and I think you held some of them. They're called smokehouse locks. They're these big, like heart-shaped locks from the 1800s.
Yep.
Like you say, one of them might have locked up something fun, like the horses or whatever, and then another one might have held a slave shackle or something, So.
And you could tell that energy. It was just, it was so defining. And we also laugh because his own daughter is going to have some abilities, because when Lynn and I were totally overwhelmed in your museum section, she came running over at 4 years old and kept giving us like a positive one, like a bead off a necklace, you know what I mean,
and
or
a
something.
Pipe that someone smoked on the porch or something.
So it was all this real positive
Maybe
energy.
Kids have a little gift and they don't know it yet or whatever.
There's an awful lot of crystal children out there, and I can tell by your daughter's eyes, she's got some stuff going on, so. And she's
I don't have
been brought
anything. I'm just my gift is
You're a
treasure
facilitator,
hunting.
but you're also a facilitator. You have to have some kind of a gift, Bill, because how would you be able to know that people were watching you?
No, I know. I'm just saying. I consider myself more technical, like running the recorders and running the metal detectors and things like that.
Oh, talk about a little bit the house set by Rocky Point, the one where you found out that there was a girl by that age, that name.
Oh, that was one of my favorite ones. A friend and I went and tried an EVP session. He knew this old foundation. I think it went back to the 1600s. And we went there at night. As everybody says ghost hunting's better at night, maybe it's that spookiness, or maybe there's also not so much road noise and stuff at night usually.
Which makes a big difference, too.
So we went at night and we set up, my recorder or whatever and started asking questions. When I was starting out, I never knew what to ask. I used to watch the ghost shows and try to get ideas. I had gone on a website that day, and I saw a good question to look for an intelligent response, and that was the one where I got I asked, who's the president of the United States, and we heard Lincoln. But I think at the same site, you're referring to, my friend said, is there a female here? And then I thought about it, and I said, in the 1700s, they might have called them ladies or women. So I pitched the next question, is there a lady or woman here? And all of a sudden, we got a male voice say, a woman. It was like the husband speaking for her or something. And then all of a sudden we hear Rebecca. And you heard the EVP before, clear as a bell.
It's clear as a bell. I have a copy of it even in my email still from that.
And that was probably the best thing I ever heard. But here's the best part was we went to the Warwick Library and did some research on the family. And it said Rebecca so-and-so, 1781 and died at age 31. And we were just blown away. Like we had,
fit all the pieces.
Yeah. And, we really talked to Rebecca, who was the daughter who lived in this house in the 1700s.
And it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We went to one, and I was sitting off, and they were having troubles hooking up with them. And I was sitting there trying to stay out of it, so I'm not putting words in people's mouths. And finally I got up, and one of the guys lived in New Hampshire and was getting ready to leave. And I said, don't leave, it's all gonna happen soon. So I just went up, and sometimes it's the craziest question. I said, did your family feed the deer? And he goes, I fed the deer.
Yeah.
Now, when you get something that clear, you can't make that up.
I was just going to say, some people have doubted my equipment. They say it's radio interference and we're just picking up CBs or radio stations, but I don't think a radio station's going to say, I fed the deer, you know?
Yeah, right, absolutely, absolutely. And also, he asked, where does the postmaster live? And she says,
yeah.
Down on the left.
Down to the left.
Down to the left. That is crazy cool. So talk a little bit about last night when we were in the jail. That was pretty interesting, huh?
I had a great time. We haven't done too many indoors. We always kept saying we got to get a indoor house, someone who owns an old house. So we get in the courthouse in South Kingstown, which is now, what is the courthouse for the arts, where they have the shows. And
all the money is raised for children that have, that are on the spectrum. And Bill was wonderful enough to donate his part, and I donated my part to the children's programs. Yeah. So the woman in charge of it was ecstatic that we did it, and we even had a few people that couldn't come that did donations, so they could do their programs and everything. But in the meantime, we had a blast.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize the jail cells are still in the basement, so that was...
With the jail doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was creepy, and it's all like bricks, and just to kind of imagine, it wouldn't have been a fun place to be in jail. You're in a brick little, like a brick little closet with bars on the door.
And
that was it.
A lot of mediums and we do go there, and we had gotten some information about the female that was down there, and she was murdered in a fight, and then 3 weeks later they found out she was innocent and shouldn't have even been in the jail. So we were trying to catch up with her. At the end of the night, one of the girls that came said, who's Alice? And that was the woman's name. So that was very cool too, huh?
Yeah.
And then when we got down there, we were expecting a woman's voice, and a woman's voice would come in but all these men's voices started coming in.
And then we found out that they used to gamble down in the other room and stuff. So there was a lot of activity.
There was a lot of activity in that basement. It was very cool, very cool. And now what'll happen is he'll siphon through. He's very good with the technical part, and siphons through the auditory stuff, and then gives us a group of them, and then we email them to the people that came to the event.
We did 3 sessions last night, one on each floor.
One on each floor, yep.
I've got a lot of tape to go through, but
right.
I'm excited because we did hear some things. I think there was one, and I'm hoping that the tapes picked it up on the 3rd session when one of the girls said, how long have you been here? And this voice said, forever.
Yes, yeah.
And everybody heard it and was just like...
Our eyes were just open. The 3rd floor was a little bit hotter because of we were catching other signals from radio stations and stuff. So we had a little hotter time, but I think you're going to find a few things that are really cool up there.
Yeah.
The 1st floor was the easiest because you're down in the basement, so you're not getting anything from anywhere.
Well, sometimes we may have not heard it come out of the speaker or whatever, but then when I've got the headphones on and I'm listening to everything, sometimes it's like, whoa.
You'd be surprised at the number of what he calls A+ ratings and stuff like Rebecca.
That's how the ghost shows kind of say that's an A VP or that's a B or that's a C, because sometimes you hear an answer but it's kind of garbled or cut off. There was, I think, one point at the last ghost hunt where I said, what year is it? And we just heard a 2.
Yep.
Because maybe he was trying to say 1922 or 1902 or something.
Right.
But all we got was just a partial. And there was other things where it sounded just garbled. So it doesn't always come out as a Class A.
Right, right. But we found out that there were a lot more action down in the basement than we expected. Yeah. Because when we got there, it was like 4, but some of the ones from the other room moved in and decided to come play with us.
And also, we knew about the girl that had died in the women's cell. So everybody's asking for a girl or a female.
And then all these guys are answering. So I think it was her and about 7 guys,
I think we've had, maybe in the olden days, the men were kind of didn't want, here.
Talked for the women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here come a bunch of strangers. Maybe the men are going to kind of stand up and.
And the story that they have in there too is that they had a woman that kept the records, and that she would sometimes play with the records and change them and stuff. So she was there, and the judge stuck around because he was protecting from her, and it was just crazy.
Just hundreds of years of bribes and gambling and murders and jail. I mean, that's quite a place to have a ghost hunt.
Yeah, because they built that. I think she said 1893 is when they built that courthouse, and it's a pretty cool structure, really cool structure to see. I go there to go see bands and stuff, and we've talked to her because we could feel the energy, and a few of us talked to her about it, and then I talked to him. We've been talking about, and I got that I needed to do something that I gave back, one that you gave the money, donation type of thing. And then this came up, and I think it's such a beautiful cause. They actually have one child that 2 people from Hollywood came in to use the structure for some of the taping. They let them use it for free, and instead she got the people from Hollywood to teach the children. And one of the children showed such talent, they flew him into to California, the family. And he was actually taping one of the shows, and
That's awesome.
supposed to be in it in 6 months. Now, it could be a 1-second gig, I have no idea. But I thought that was a beautiful thing that they did. So I kind of love the place.
It must be a great place to see a band because it's like a nice intimate setting.
It is a very intimate setting. So if you ever want to see them, they have a lot of the mock-up bands. I'm going to see Van Morrison mock-up band on Saturday night, actually. Yeah. So in here, too, I want to go more into some of the digging that you do. What are some of the places that you go to? And
Well, like as we said, my favorite place are the cellar holes because, we've got some of them that we found in the woods where we found artifacts from the 1600s.
Wow.
And I think I've always felt with that feeling of being watched that, these people built the wells by hand. They dug their own wells.
So much of their energy.
They made these walls, and maybe they never left. That's kind of my feeling. And but there's been other times where I felt like maybe they didn't want me there. That I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I haven't been one of those people that says, "Oh, I've been touched, I felt something, or I saw an
He
apparition."
didn't even believe in all this stuff before
Well,
this
that's
stuff
it.
happened.
I was a skeptic. I thought the ghost shows were, just a bunch of stuff to, just for ratings or whatever. But that's why I got some of the recorders to kind of see for myself, because I always had that feeling of being watched, especially if you're by yourself with the headphones on.
So, I can imagine with that happening.
Yeah.
Because when I'm quiet and I'm alone, they talk to me too. So
There was one place that I call the haunted cellar hole because I went by myself, and I usually don't go by myself anymore. That all bad things were happening. They say a tree falls in the forest. A tree fell like right behind me. Boom. Then I sprained my ankle on on the stone wall. It was like this.
Well, a lot of times too, they're earthbound energies. People get into all this demonic and stuff, and I don't necessarily follow that line.
No.
A lot of times they're earthbound and they missed going to the white light, and they're just looking for us. So that's what we do. The end of them, we send them up, so that way they can redo their, figure out their lessons and see what they need to do next instead of being locked in. A lot of them don't know they passed. One of the last ones that we did in cellar holes outside was the father was looking for his daughter, that had been murdered, and by a friend that was and he thought the nanny stole her, but he murdered the nanny too. So it was a lot. Now, they wouldn't talk to them, and my grandson was there because of lack of babysitting, and he's got mediumship skills. And remember, the guy would only talk to him.
Yeah.
And then other times, last night, especially down in the basement, I found the people with the deeper voices got more action.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We always say you got to put it in terms of, here's a bunch of strangers coming in, asking all these questions.
Oh, we had one that we did that they were doing illegal activities, and it was almost they didn't like us there.
Oh, yeah, they were saying,
catch
get out of here, and all this stuff.
Saying fresh things to
Yeah.
both him and I. Saying fresh things to both him
I
and
can
I.
understand that, though. I mean, I think that was a mill owner's house or something, and we kept asking for the guy, and is this a mill? And we get out of here, none of your business. And some people are going to be standoffish. That's why I always try to be like friendly, like you're really going into someone's house.
Well, if you want to get a hold of Bill Ladd, your Facebook page is Bill Ladd, correct? Or is it William Ladd?
I have the Dig Fella YouTube is
Oh,
where.
he does. You have the Dig Fella on YouTube.
That's how actually we got discovered to do the treasure hunting show. Was I was making metal detecting and bottle digging videos, and we put them on YouTube. And a Hollywood producer called us, so that was.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah,
That is
so
excellent.
we did 8 episodes on the Travel Channel, and every once in a while they still show it on the Destination America.
And one time they had you go on one of the other dig
Oh yeah,
shows.
that was Josh Gates' show.
They had you go as a guest.
Yes, and that was on the Discovery Channel. So I got lucky and through YouTube. So you can still see it at Dig Fellas on YouTube.
So it's Dig Fellas.
Yeah, it's kind of like Goodfellas. That was what the Travel Channel chose as a name for us. We did a
Okay.
pilot in Newport, and it was originally called Diggin' History. But they thought, Dig Fellas is kind of like Goodfellas, and it was a catchy name.
And we all went to his premiere.
Oh,
when they
we
showed
had
the show,
big
remember?
premiere
Yeah.
party. Yeah, that was my 15 minutes of fame. It was a thrill. It was a dream job too, with all that travel and stuff.
But in here, some of what you're doing is, he takes me and sees if I'm getting that there's, energies out there, and then we do release them, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
And like I said, we went a few times to Fidelity to make sure that got cleared because Fidelity was building on that land
Yeah.
that had the deep freeze. And
That's what I meant about progress wiping out these old places. So yeah, it was. I saved some history, and you saved some.
some people just
yeah.
to be able to recycle. And if you ever feel an energy around, call an Archangel Michael, and he helps send them up. And Bill has learned that it's very important because at first he'd hide them from me sometimes, so he wouldn't send them up so we could play with them again. But realizing that some soul isn't able to move forward, you need to do it. So needs to heal. So I thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you
I've had
for
a blast.
having
Yes.
me. I know.
We get to hang out 2 nights in a row. We don't usually get.
And we could probably do a 3-hour show because.
We have so many stories.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much again for coming, and we'll have to do another show sometime. And we're planning another EVP that's outside. We're getting ready to plan one.
Yeah.
So we needed to get that other one. I think we both needed to get that other one because we keep forgetting to go check out the land.
Oh.
So we're going to be checking out a site to do another one, and there will be an event which will show up on the Mindz Eye Facebook page. Thank you so much again.
Thanks
and
for having
I
me.
did enjoy this thoroughly. So